Welcome to Movies Narrated. Before we begin, there are spoilers ahead. Today we'll talk about a 2021 American fantasy adventure film, Jungle Cruise, which is based on Disneyland's theme park attraction in which a tiny riverboat transports a party of passengers through a jungle filled with frightening creatures and reptiles, but with a supernatural twist. The film begins with a description of the mythology of the Tears of the Moon. They are magical petals that grow on a particular tree and have healing properties. Sometime in the mid-16th century, Spanish conquistadors commanded by Don Lope de Aguirre set out to find the tree in the Amazon. Aguirre loses most of his soldiers and is forced to fend for himself. According to mythology, he was discovered by locals and sentenced to be a forest prisoner. 1916, London, MacGregor Houghton is seeking to persuade the Royal Society of Explorers to support an expedition to uncover the Tears of the Moon for study and therapeutic purposes, but the organization regards it as a waste of time and based only on a myth. MacGregor's sister Lily sneaks off while he stalls the gang, going to the organization's archives. She finds a box holding a particular arrowhead that is the key to locating the Tears of the Moon, but German aristocrat Prince Joachim is also looking for it. Lily nearly makes it out before Joachim calls her out. She tries to flee on a ladder, but Joachim almost knocks her down, so MacGregor stops a bus to allow her down and make her escape. When Joachim's identity is discovered, he murders the other men in the room, and the keeper of the archives informs him who Lily is. Meanwhile, Lily and MacGregor plot their own journey to find the Tears of the Moon. In South America, a tour guide named Frank Wolf is leading a group of passengers on a journey across the river in his boat, La Quila, which is equipped with a variety of stunts that Frank devised. He also makes a lot of stupid jokes, much to the annoyance of the passengers. Frank is able to keep them out of troubled seas. Lily and MacGregor come close to seek out Nilo Nemolato, a harbor master who would give them with the boat they require to complete their journey, based on a chart Lily has brought that will lead them to the tree. Nilo locates Frank, who owes him money, and when he lacks the funds, he takes the engine from Frank's boat as collateral. When Frank sneaks into Nilo's office while he is gone, Lily walks up to the office thinking she is talking to Nilo, but Frank misleads her and tries to convince her to employ him for the trip to the tree. This nearly succeeds until MacGregor comes with the real Nilo and Lily begins to force her to leave. The bar they are at is subsequently terrified by a jaguar, who Frank manages to leave with a piece of meat. Lily and MacGregor are persuaded to join Frank as a result of this. Frank leads Lily and MacGregor to his boat while attempting to reinstall the motor. Lily is kidnapped by bird poachers hired by Joachim, but she manages to open a lock and escape just as his goons are closing in on her. As they begin to ride the boat out, Frank and MacGregor try to outpace Nilo's soldiers. They manage to apprehend Lily and get her into the boat, but Joachim discovers that the heroes are escaping, so he emerges from his submarine and attacks them. He launches a torpedo at them, but Frank maneuvers the boat into an old structure as the torpedo passes beneath them. Frank pulls them escape as the submarine destroys Nilo's other boats and Nilo sees his business practically sink. Frank makes fun of the siblings during the boat journey, but he spends more time with them. While they are passing through the river with mystical dolphin animals, Lily shows him a video camera. Later, the siblings realize that the jaguar they saw earlier is Frank's pet named Proxima, whom he used as a pawn to persuade them to hire him. Lily is unhappy. Joachim and his men discover an underground chamber where Aguirre and his men are imprisoned below the jungle's soil. Using river water, Joachim frees the snakes that are part of Aguirre's body and asks for his help in finding the arrowhead. Joachim's men flood the cavern with river water to rouse the conquistadors, and Aguirre agrees. The group encounters rough waters and nearly falls over a massive waterfall, but Frank manages to guide them to safety. They make it to land and come to a halt for a little period. Lily walks past Frank's quarters while he meets with MacGregor, who explains to Frank that he was shunned by his family and society because he is homosexual, and that Lily was the only one who stuck by his side, even though she may come off as a little rough around the edges at times. Lily discovers many maps of the tree among Frank's possessions, resulting in a confrontation in which she accuses him of wanting the tree for himself. The three are knocked out by darts moments later. The three are taken hostage by a local tribe. Frank speaks their language and tries to communicate with them as they ask for the arrowhead. Lily refuses to give it up and attempts to flee, but it is later shown that the tribe is aware of Frank's identity and participates in his charade. Lily is enraged by his repeated dishonesty, and McGregor responds by hitting him in the face. After calming down, Lily consults with the tribe's leader, Trader Sam, to find out how to translate the arrowhead, which pinpoints the position of the tree and reveals that it blooms during a blood moon. The tribe is subsequently assaulted by Aguirre and his soldiers, who have been imprisoned in the forest for so long that they have transformed into monsters capable of manipulating animals such as bees and snakes. They get close to obtaining the arrowhead, but Frank obtains it at the cost of being pierced by Aguirre's blade and flung from a great height. Lily flees with it and gets far enough since the conquistadors are dragged back because they can't proceed beyond the river. Lily discovers McGregor and Frank alive in the morning. He then discloses to Lily that he is approximately 400 years old. He had previously been known as Francisco and served as the cartographer on Aguirre's journey since they had grown up together as siblings. To heal his ailing daughter, Aguirre sought for the tears of the moon. After most of their men perished on the journey, they were discovered by the locals, who used the tree's petals to treat Frank and Aguirre, as well as the remaining soldiers. Aguirre grew agitated and requested that the tribe's chief tell him where to find the tree, but he was thought unworthy and killed the chief in retaliation. Frank assisted the chief's daughter in obtaining the arrowhead, and in his last words, the chief curses the conquistadors, dooming them to be chained to the forest and never able to depart. Frank and Aguirre encountered each other regularly and battled several times throughout the decades, so Frank set up a trap to draw the men into the cavern away from the water, trapping them in stone for millennia. Frank would establish a neighboring settlement and meet many people he would outlast, therefore he has been looking for the tree to die in peace. Frank and Lily make their own way to the tree, while McGregor remains behind with Sam because he is injured. Unfortunately, they are discovered by Joachim, who kidnaps McGregor and compels him to lead them to Lily's whereabouts, since the conquistadors' bees have also provided them with information. In the meantime, Sam swims back to the tribe. Frank and Lily locate the tree in La Luna Rota, and Lily must overcome her phobia of swimming in order to dive underwater and squeeze through a channel to pull a switch that brings them closer to the tree. The waves recede as a result, but Joachim appears with McGregor in tow. He forces them to enter the section and comprehend the Torah. Frank and Lily learn that the arrowhead is supposed to resemble a heart, with a gem within that serves as a key. As the moon rises overhead, it brings the tree to life. Joachim and his men try to take the petals from the tree, but Lily stops them. Aguirre and his men come and assault Joachim with his snakes, while Lily races to get one flower as the moon passes through. The other petals die rapidly, but she obtains the one she needs. Aguirre confronts Frank on the boat as he steers it against a river-blocking wall, but first urges McGregor to inform Lily that she is world enough for him. Joachim retaliates, but McGregor fights him and pushes him into a wall, forcing a pillar to collapse and smother Joachim. The boat collides with the wall, halting the flow of water and imprisoning not just Aguirre and his men, but also Frank. Lily carries the petal to Frank to resuscitate him. It doesn't seem to work at first, then Proxima roars as she sees the stone around Frank collapse. He is still alive, but his immortality has vanished, and he may now live a normal life. He and Lily exchange kisses. The group returns to London, where McGregor informs the Royal Society that he has rejected their plea. Lily takes Frank on a tour of London while teaching him how to drive, however, he is not very good at it.